Week 3 is upon us in the NFL, so today we'll preview our favorite matchups of the week and also some players that we believe will make a big impact in their games.
Teams that need to win in week 3. I'm going to give you a list right now. 0-2. I have the Ravens and Bengals, and have the Colts and the Jaguars, because these guys all have playoff aspirations. We'll talk about the other 0-2 teams after in a second. Off the bat, how would you rank the 4 in terms of must win?
It has to be Baltimore, in my opinion, number 1.
Yeah.
Because you're a Super Bowl contender and you're 0-2. You lost coming off. I would say they're the biggest disappointment of the weekend, even though the Cowboys got shellacked. But that's more embarrassing. But the Baltimore Ravens were more disappointing. And the fact that your defense allowed 20 plus points to Gardner Minshew is pretty deflating, in my opinion, especially then offensively. Max Crosby was able to put a tear, and their O-line is still struggling right now. Those new guards and right tackle as well. But overall, I think the Baltimore Ravens they're going to have a tough schedule, and they're going to have to start finding a way to get wins right now. Otherwise, it might be a little bit too late for them to start.
Yeah, so I agree with that's the number 1. And number 2 for me is the Cincinnati Bengals, because that is the toughest division. Not much to say there, obviously. They had a hard start, I guess you could say. Who did they play? The Chiefs and the
Ravens.
Never mind. They got shellacked.
Yeah. Ravens and Bengals had similar, I guess, competition to start off with. One bad team, and obviously the other being the reigning, defending, undisputed NFL champion.
with week 3, the Bengals are playing the Commanders. The Ravens are playing the Cowboys. So that's already a tough matchup for the Ravens. That's like, they need to win. You know, you could even, we're going to stick with the 0-2 team, but you could easily put the Cowboys on this list because of the shellac. They got their ass kicked by the Saints.
That's probably the worst home opener game I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Going back to topic here. So yeah, we agree those are the top 2 teams. The Colts and Jags, right? We're not going to ramble on the Colts too much here, but playoff aspirations, horrible run defense. Got better in the second half against the Packers, but injuries galore there right now. Good news for them, Josh Downs is coming in, and they're playing the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, who, few analysts did have them winning the division still, because they thought the Houston was maybe a sophomore slump year from CJ Stroud, whereas the Jags might figure their stuff out one more year. So far, they're 0-2 as well, and people are already down pretty bad on Trevor Lawrence as it is. And they're playing the Bills, which is not going to be easy, but they always find a way to get it done with the Bills. Who is under more pressure out of those 2 teams?
I think it has to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. You just paid Trevor Lawrence one of the highest paid contracts in the league, and he is not producing at all, and he hasn't really produced in his first 3 or 4 years in the league as well. Overall, defensively, they looked okay. But offensively is more of the issue right now. They haven't really lived up to that, the time they actually did win the division. But let's be honest, that wasn't really super impressive, because everyone else in the AFC South sucked. And the fact that you had to win.
Well, to be fair, they came back on the Titans that year.
Yeah, but 8-9 record to make the playoffs.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is the Titans were supposed to be the heavy favorite.
Yeah, no, but
and I understand injuries happen.
Injuries happen. You had to beat on Joshua Dobbs. You did come back. Don't be wrong. But
I think they got 9-8.
Yeah, okay, yeah, 9-8. Again, nothing super impressive, and nothing that they really build on from that point forwards. I guess the playoff win was impressive, don't get me wrong, against the Chargers, and you kept it close against the Chiefs. But overall, they just haven't really got back to that level. And there's pressure on Lawrence, there's pressure on Peterson right now as well, because that combo hasn't worked like how we thought it should work.
So I'll just touch base on the Colts of why I think they're going to be heavy pressure, because the way the season ended last year with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, yes, we know Anthony Richardson is still young. Logical fans will have patience, because it is his 6th NFL game last time, and he's still kind of carrying bits and loads, especially in the second half of the first week against the Texans. But the reason why I'm saying they're going to have the pressure is because, like I said, expectations. Number 2, they lost to the Packers team that did not have Jordan Love, and shout out to Matt LaFleur, who put an awesome game plan, but there's the run defense in the first half pretty much lost them the game right there. And then number 3, they're playing the Bears as well. So in this week alone, I'm saying pressure-wise, you are probably going to hope for the Colts. It's an easier win for the Colts compared to the Jaguars. That's the best way to put it. Even though they're both home, I believe the Jaguars should be home against the Bills as well. Even though even if they were in Buffalo, the weather is still decent enough to play in Buffalo at the moment. But
the best way to describe this Colts-Bears game is when a stoppable force meets a movable object. The stoppable force being the Bears' rushing attack, which is really terrible, and the movable object being the Colts' run defense.
Who's most out of these four? Who's most likely to win this weekend?
Most likely to win, it has to be Cincy.
Yeah,
right. Like there's no way that they don't win this game. There's no way that Jamar.
I mean, there is a way, but they shouldn't.
There's no way that they shouldn't lose this game. There's no way that Jamar Chase finally should not put up a good performance because the Washington Commanders cornerbacks and secondary is not the greatest as well. So Burrow, I expect to feast. I expect Jamar Chase to feast. And I'm really hoping that happens because for my fantasy sake as well. But I think there's no reason for them to fail in this case.
Okay, so the other 0-2 teams remaining as well, the Titans, the Giants, the Rams, the Panthers, and the Broncos. We'll touch base on the Panthers here very quickly. They benched Bryce Young, which is a little low because Andy Dalton's still in the league. And once upon a time, this is not Cincinnati Andy Dalton anymore. We'll get to our upset alert later on. This could be a potential one for both of us, at least, when they play the Raiders this week. But that says a lot. But the Panthers, your thoughts on the Bryce Young benching. And is it strictly a Chicago problem? Because I have something to say about it.
You mean Carolina problem?
Sorry, yeah.
Quarterbacks die in Carolina, let's be honest. The only person that actually was alive was Cam Newton, and low-key, he died in Carolina as well. Bryce Young, in terms of, I think it's a smart move in terms of let him watch a couple games. I do believe he's going to start again this season because I don't think Andy Dalton's going to hold it down. And I think Andy Dalton's really going to struggle because this Raiders defense is nuts and Max Crosby is on a tear as well, along with other people in the defense as, what's his name, Christian Wilkins and Trayvon Moreg. They have the Raiders defense is stout, led by Antonio Pierce. And I expect Andy Dalton to struggle. But the thing is that I think Bryce Young was thrown into fire, right? Not the greatest situation, obviously. He had Hope Frank Reich and Josh McCown as his quarterback coach and head coach, but overall, that didn't work out. He's already under second coach. He's getting benched. I can't really blame Dave Canales because he's probably going to get scapegoated.
He wasn't there for the draft of.
Exactly, yeah.
But even that doesn't matter if he was there because it was a David Tepper pick. And that's where I was going to go with it.
But the thing, the last point with this is that I think this could be a good moment for Bryce Young because he gets to sit and watch, right? Which we thought maybe Richardson's injury wasn't the worst in disguise because he got to sit and watch a little bit, even though he needed games. I think with Bryce, he actually has a lot of games in Alabama and now Carolina where he played his whole rookie season. If he takes a step back, watches a few games, watches a guy vet like Andy Dalton work, I think it could be good for him personally.
So, yeah, I agree with that. For me, again, I'm going to put it on David Tepper.
100%.
There's a reason why Dave Canales did this. He saw Frank Reich get fired in 11 weeks last year, right? I'm not saying he didn't deserve to be let go or not. That's not the argument here. But for me, listen, Panthers fans, you guys are screwed. You have David Tepper in. He just got in. He ain't selling the team anytime soon. He's making a lot of these decisions there as well. Dave Canales is one of the correct hires to pay. Obviously, they were targeting Ben Johnson. That's not on them. But Dave Canales is a right hire of what he did with Baker, so you would think he would do something here. The question is the patience level on David Tepper and that ownership group, right? There's a new, let's see how it goes. To your point, it might be time. I'll give it a couple more weeks. It might be time that Bryce Young gets away from here and becomes good, like a Sam Darnold is showing early signs right now. Whether he can sustain this, we don't know. And we've already seen Baker do it on different instances on different teams.
Here's the point I want to make about Tepper. Like if you're a team that I don't watch, so any other team except for the Colts, basically, or I don't root for, and I know your owner's name, there's an issue. Yeah, because he's in the news too much, and that's the problem right there. I still don't know
who the Chiefs owner is.
I'll be honest, I don't.
I don't.
Even though we see him lift a Super Bowl
Jerry
trophy.
Jones is in the news, but at least he has a decent.
But he's a GM too, so that makes sense. Like you know a GM, but yeah. So Panthers, I think they might go 0-17.
So okay, they're playing the Raiders, like I mentioned. Who's most likely to win? The Rams versus the Niners here. The Giants, the Titans are playing the Packers. They're kind of favored because of the injury thing. Because at the end of the day, the Titans' defense is still the best.
You already know my answer.
Is it Titans?
It's the Titans. It's 100% the Titans, man. Their defense is absolutely incredible. All Will Levis has to do is just take care of the football, which he hasn't been doing. But I think he will take care of the football this week. He did improve from week 2 to week 1. And I think another game here, week 3, no Jordan Love. Just don't put your defense in bad positions, and your defense should be able to get the job done with Malik Willis. And they'll actually learn from the Colts defense and actually stack the box because we know they're going to run the football.
Yeah. And they have better.
And they have better,
there.
yeah, they have better people.
Let's move on to the 2-0 side. Sorry. Let's go. Yeah, let's talk about the 2 and or do you want to talk about the Ravens?
Let's go. Let's go into matchups here first.
Okay, Ravens Cowboys is obviously our game of the week for obvious reasons. Both teams are in a must-win situation, especially the Ravens, like we alluded to, so we're not going to touch base on them.
Especially what they're coming off of week 2 as well, both of them.
Cowboys got their ass kicked. Nothing else to say. They need to bounce back heavily.
So do you?
And it's not going to be an easy match for them because they're playing somewhat of a desperate Ravens.
Do you think it's a blip, or do you think it was like
the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Wait, who did they play first again?
They played the Browns, and
I would say blip.
I would
say blip because
I would agree.
I was thinking the Saints were a blip of putting that much good offense because it was the Panthers. Yeah, they did this again here, right? And we'll touch base them on the next matchup here. I think it's a blip. However, I'm gonna say this way: it's a blip.
But you feel like they're still gonna lose?
Yeah, I have like in our family pick'ems thing, I have Ravens winning. It's because I think they're a little bit more of a desperate team to get it done, and I don't know. They will figure things out. It'll be a much closer game. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it'll be a close game. I think the Cowboys just lacked, didn't do the little things. They didn't do the hustle plays. They just felt like they didn't want to play type of thing. Kind of like how the Colts were. So like that's how I kind of knew the body language just wasn't there. The one issue with the Cowboys is they still lack a run game. Even with Zeke being back there, is not the greatest. They're at first 2 weeks, they're already at the bottom of the rushing stats offensively. And overall, defensively, I think that's just a blip. Offensively, it's going to be Prescott and Lamb show, and they're showing their connection is still really good with all the drama that happened in the offseason between their contracts. But overall, I do agree it's a blip. I do agree that they'll play better, but I also do agree that they will lose because the Baltimore Ravens need to win, in my opinion, more so than the Cowboys, and I feel like that desperation will help the Ravens win. Quick on the Ravens defense, allowing 20-plus points to Gardner Minshew. Their run defense is incredible. Their pass defense has been horrendous. I think they're at the bottom of the league right now in terms of pass defense over their first 2 games.
I haven't heard Kyle Hamilton's name much either, and he's like arguably the best, the top 3 safety in the league right now as well, right?
Yeah. O-line struggles again. Offensively, I think they look good, and personally, I think Lamar looks fine, but offensive line needs to pick it up because that's when you'll see Derrick Henry pick it up. It just coincides, and then Ravens defense, I think they're really missing Mike McDonald in terms of the pass game, but run game, they've been really struggling. But for that reason, I think they'll figure some stuff out here, and they're going to make sure they have to have a good pass defense because the Cowboys' passing attack is what's going to get them the win here. And the Ravens are going to pick it up in that aspect, and for that reason, I think they do, and I picked the Ravens as well.
You know how, I'm going to say one last thing before we go to the next matchup. Justin Tucker has missed 2 50-plus yard field goals I think I saw a stat where only like 4 or 8 were missed or something, 50-plus yards. And you usually don't hear that sentence often when it comes to Justin Tucker. Obviously, age is a factor there as well, but obviously they just need to fix things all around if they want to make a better run. But let's go on to another intriguing matchup we have here. The Saints, once again, because, it was a blip against the Cowboys, we don't know, taking on the Eagles, who are coming off a very disappointing loss on Monday Night Football. Should they have thrown the ball to Saquon Barkley? Obviously, in hindsight, no. Should he have made the catch? In hindsight, yes. But I still thought they should have ran the ball. It would have been easier for them to do a running the clock thing rather than clock pause, hit the field goal, and Kirk Cousins put a beautiful drive down the line. But that's a different story.
Let's start off with the Eagles, and I want to start off with Hurts, and particularly what he did that game. And I felt like their offenses looks way better than last year. I know they lost, and I was only put like 21 points. But what I saw from Hurts is that he was able to rush again, and he really showed his dual threat ability. He got 85 yards that game, and that was a Jalen Hurts we saw in his MVP year with Shane Steichen. So I have hope for this offense. The defense, I have no hope for. I'll be honest with you. Like, how are you allowing Bijan Robinson 6.9 yards per carry, and then Tyler Algier 5.9 yards per carry, and you're so conservative on the final drive that you allow Kirk Cousins easy boundary passes to stop the clock, first of all. Why are you not guarding the sideline? And second of all, touchdown was way easy. Drake London, a simple route on Darius Slay. It was just
Slay gave him props, but yeah.
Yeah, it was just overall, it just felt so easy for Kirk Cousins, and it goes from top to bottom from the line because they got zero pressure on that drive, all the way to the secondary in terms of they weren't able to cover the boundaries really really well, which saved the Falcons so much time.
So here's my issue I have here. I said Dennis Allen will be the first coach fired. Clearly, that's not the case after 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's probably going to be Sirianni because here's a couple of things, right? He's in charge of hiring coordinators. He did such a good job of hiring the first two coordinators. They got head coaching jobs immediately. Jonathan Gannon with the Arizona Cardinals and obviously Shane Steichen with the Indianapolis Colts. Last year, terrible. Sean Desai and I forget the other guy, whoever it was, to be honest.
It was Patricia, wasn't it? No, he got promoted, I think.
No, I think it was someone else. I forgot who it was. Either way, they got let go for a reason.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Kellen Moore, who needs to prove himself because
Honestly,
he's shown.
I think he's doing really well right now, though.
Obviously, the last play call was definitely kind of, you should have ran.
Okay, here's the thing with that, right? Like, obviously, yeah, do you run the clock? Yes, sure, whatever, you do that. But the dude was wide open. The ball was in his hands, right? You just have to make a play. I don't blame the play call for that because your job as a play caller is to make sure the guy is open. Saquon was open. The ball was in his hands.
But you cannot risk anything that late in the game because they're blowing a lot of leads. Keep that in mind. Like I think Hurts is something like 2-11 or something in his last like 13 or 2-9 in his last 11, something like that.
So like,
but for me, it's like I just make it tough for them, right? At least you're gonna get a feel.
The game was iced. That catch was made. Game was iced, and I blame more so Saquon than I do the play calling. And in terms of the other one, like remember Steichen last year, Minshew to Goodson. Goodson was open.
Well, that's different. They were trying to get the first down.
Yeah, I know, but
this one they're trying to.
I'm saying like people argue the play call, right?
Yeah.
The play caller's job is to make sure if the play is open and the play is there, the play caller did his job, right? Barkley was open. Goodson was open then. I think Kellen Moore did his job. He got the guy. He schemed it up beautifully. Hurts and Barkley just have to execute in that opinion. And I think that's more of an execution issue than that was a play calling issue in my opinion.
Fair, but like I said, I'm thinking more like, I was thinking like we were watching it together. I said, run the ball here. Like, why are you throwing it? Just make it at least tougher. At the end of the day, like, it's a risk throwing the ball that late. You freeze the clock. We saw what Kirk did. Instead of, if they ran the ball, it would have been like, what, 30-ish seconds left? 30 to 40 seconds left? Instead, you gave him a whole like a minute and a half or something, right? So that's where I'm coming from as well. As the other thing I want to say about Nick Sirianni, though, the reason why he's going to be gone, like, what does he really do, right?
Nothing.
Because outside of motivate the team, which is what you need, which is what kind of Dan Campbell does as well, to be fair. But my point is, every time I see him, I don't know why I can't take him seriously. Yes, he was a former OC of the Colts, but again, he didn't play call there. When he did take play call duties, he was terrible.
He struggled.
They gave him to Shane Steichen. They were insane. They went to the Super Bowl and were a couple of plays of winning the Super Bowl.
Made the playoffs the first year.
Exactly, right? You lose Shane Steichen, your offense goes dreadful and down the stretch, right? You lose Gannon, your defense kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. And it's obviously, you mentioned the defense this year is continuing. So he's just there, right? Like, he's obviously there running around. And then obviously management, like whether it be timeout management, he could have vetoed that. He himself, let's just say, he could have vetoed that. If it was them, I don't know. Maybe it was him who did the play call. Maybe he could have vetoed it and said, no, run the ball here. Let's just bleed the clock out. Because you get my perspective from there as well. Because just to make it tough on Kirk Cousins.
I get it.
But with like what, no timeouts or like one timeout remaining or whatever it was at the time. So
I agree what you're saying, but what I was saying is that like, no, I blame the player. I blame the player more than the coach.
Everything would have been said differently in hindsight, right?
Oh,
We're obviously speaking in hindsight, but my point is like Sirianni's on the clock here. Right? You cannot make the Super Bowl and then shit the bed the next 2 years.
You know what's even funnier? That Sirianni's 3 years. I mean, the playoffs all 3 years. So when you look at like
it's Philadelphia though.
I know it's Philadelphia. Like there's short leash and all the fans are crazy there about their sports. But like when you look at Sirianni in terms of like success standpoint, like 3 years, 3 playoff appearances, like that sounds really really good. But obviously.
Expectations are different.
But
here's the thing: people are gonna. That's what people stat watch, right? I'm not saying you are. I'm saying that's what stat watching looks like. To your point, but when you see them go undefeated for a little bit, remember last year when we did those power rankings on
they didn't
TikTok
look
and stuff.
Yeah, they didn't look.
And
good.
I literally put them 5th as an undefeated team, and you were questioning me. It did not look right? And then eventually they fell off. And they lose to Tampa when they should have not lost to Tampa, right? But I could keep going on and on. But this, we'll pause it there.
But Saints, let's talk about Saints quickly. Offense we talked about last week, but one thing that we need to bring up is the Saints defense.
Yeah.
Allowed 14.5 points average in the first 2 weeks. Granted, the first week was Carolina. But the second week was a high-powered offense in Dallas. So this defense, who was really good, it was always been good for the Saints, is still doing well. And we got to give props to Dennis Allen for that. In terms of the reason why Dennis Allen probably didn't really get fired is because he's a defensive guy, and his defense is actually doing good. Like opposite of Staley, where everything sucked.
Yeah, for sure.
But so obviously we're seeing Carr's elite, Kubiak's elite right now. So we'll just see. But personally, I have picked the Saints to win this game.
So I flipped it. I'm saying the Eagles are more desperate than the Saints. I'm not saying Saints should afford a loss because that division is now showing to be a little bit tougher than normal. But yeah, no, I have the Eagles winning this. But again, I won't be surprised if the Saints win it as well.
So we got quick 2-0 teams versing each other, starting off with the Vikings and Texans. Let's just I'm just gonna rip the bandit off.
It's Texans.
Who's gonna remain undefeated?
Texans,
obviously. Next one is the Chargers and Steelers. Who's remain undefeated?
So here's the thing.
It's tough. This one's a little bit tougher.
This is tough. So we got to talk about this one. No offense to Vikings fans there, but we know CJ Stroud.
You guys are playing well.
Yeah.
Really well, but the Texans are just on another level.
Chargers, Steelers. And this is the reason why I find it tough. We shot on the Chargers before the season started a little bit, like saying that whole division is ass except for the Chiefs. Then I started growing into it a little bit, saying like they have a culture. They win week 1. Yes, it was against the Raiders. Still a tough divisional matchup. And then they beat the Panthers. Same style how the Saints beat the Panthers. Fair, right? Bryce Young gets benched because of those 2 games. The Steelers, on the other hand, once again, they beat the Falcons, who was their first game together as a team. And I think they'll get better as we go. Still a good win. I'm not saying that. But they beat the Denver Broncos. Right, you're going on against Bo Nix, who maybe should have had like the Drake May treatment and be looking out for being on the bench and then come into the season, right? But that's a different story. So that's where it gets tough. Obviously, on paper, it's easier to say this in the Steelers because Mike Tomlin's there. Their defense is insane. You have the best player on both sides of the ball right now, especially with TJ Watt. Obviously, the other team, Justin Herbert's there in terms of the quarterback matchup. I went with the Chargers. Mainly because I feel like it's going to come down. The Chargers defense played pretty well so far as well, right? I'm not saying they're not at the level at the Steelers. And I think it's going to come down to the quarterback matchup. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is going to do what he did in the last 2 games because of how good TJ Watt and the rest of that line is going to be there. Patrick Queen is added in that line.
I really hope Dobbins does good.
Yeah, I know why you're saying that.
I'm fantasy too. By the way,
yeah, I gotta look at that.
Yeah, no, I
beat you the first time. I beat you in the other one, but no, I'm going with the Chargers. I think this is a Justin Herbert game, and hopefully his O-line is better, so he could stand upright and make plays. The question is, can his playmakers make those plays?
I've actually gone with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Justin Fields, yes, he may not have looked electric or done anything special, but I think he really brought stability at the quarterback position, which they didn't have since Ben Roethlisberger. And I think when it comes down to it, I know it was Denver, but like I've seen some plays that Fields could make in terms of scrambling and running and, launching it deep. And you have a really good guy who could catch the deep ball in George Pickens. Again, defensively, Chargers have found their identity, which is running the football.
Khalil Max had a good start.
And Khalil Max had a good start. But the issue is you're going against a line that has Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt. And your offensive line is very young. It's better, but it's really young. And Joe Alt's going to really have a test.
I just needed to have a little upset pick. This is not a big upset, so that's why we're not going to put this on an upset order, but it's still there.
I think as long as Fields doesn't turn the ball over, the defense should dominate and really discomfort Herbert. I'm not saying Herbert's going to play bad, but like I feel like if it's going to come down to a Herbert game-winning drive, I think the Steelers defense will hold, in my opinion, and that's why I'm picking the Steelers.
All right, other 2-0. Let's go quick fire here now to close it out. Other 2-0 teams right now: the Bills, Chiefs, Seahawks, Bucks, and the Saints. We already talked about the Saints. Bills play the Jags. We talked about the Jags earlier about that matchup. Chiefs play the Falcons. Seahawks play the Dolphins. And the Bucks play the Broncos. Most likely to stay undefeated and most likely to lose their first game. Go.
Most likely to stay undefeated are going to be 2 teams, the Seahawks and Buccaneers. Obviously, Dolphins are going to be struggling without Tua at least 1 week. I'm not saying that they're going to keep struggling because they also have many weapons. But I feel like with Huntley coming in or whoever is, Skylar Thompson, they're going to need a game to adjust. And then the Buccaneers raising the Broncos, that's pretty self-explanatory. Again, most likely to lose, I'll go with the Buffalo Bills. In terms of, because the Jacksonville Jaguars actually had their number for the last few years. And that's probably, I'm just going off a a base of a history pick here, a base of a recent run, and that's probably why Lawrence had Allen's number. That defense actually had the Bills' offensive number, but that's probably the reason why I'll probably go with the Bills. No real football analysis to it in terms of what I think what matchup is good, but in terms of like I'm just riding with the recent run.
Well, listen, the Bills, you gotta give also credit to what Josh Allen's been doing without weapons, really, right? Like that's when you look at the Chargers, the weapons are kind of similar. Maybe you'll give the edge to the Bills' weapons a little bit, but I agree with the Bucks. Most likely, the Chiefs one, I could see them winning. I could also see the Falcons winning because the Chiefs again are teetering. Like they should have lost that Bengals game. Let's be real. And then the Ravens game, yeah, they played well. I'm not gonna say take too much away from that. But the Seahawks, the only pushback I have is we thought it was very easy Colts over Packers as well. I'm not saying us two, but I'm saying the media because of it's Malik Willis and blah blah blah. But the coach is good. LaFleur is good. He put a good game plan. I have the same feeling about Mike McDaniel offensively that he might put a good game plan because the Seahawks O-line and D-line aren't the greatest.
Yeah, but
I agree that the Seahawks will win this game.
But the difference between the Seahawks and the Colts is that the Seahawks secondary is amazing compared to the Colts.
But the Seahawks also D-line isn't the greatest, and they could get ran on the ball. And then once they open that up a little bit, yes, it's Skylar Thompson, so that's a little different. Tyreek Hill might find his way. I'm praising Mike McDaniel, like how I have to praise. But I do agree with you. Ultimately, the Seahawks will win. Should win this game and will win this game.
McDaniel's gonna get tested, that's for sure. And let's see if he passes like how LaFleur did. But those are all our matchups. Let's go on to our upset alert. So who do you have on upset alert this year? This week.
Funny enough, Panthers Raiders. And the reason why I alluded to that earlier.
Is there a favorite in that game?
It's the Raiders, clearly.
Yeah.
I still think the Raiders will win this game. But the reason why I'm putting the Raiders on upset alert, again, they aren't the greatest team themselves. Their defense is good because Max Crosby's there. I have to give him mad love for that. The QB switch. I don't know. Sometimes it builds a spark. You find a way to win, right? And that's the only reason why I have this team on upset alert. Otherwise, like a team that I picked, you can't say the Steelers. Sorry, yeah, that game's a big upset, and you can't really say the Saints and the other ones are upset. I guess you could say like with my logic, the Dolphins and Seahawks.
I'll give you an upset.
Go ahead.
The Detroit Lions are on upset alert. Arizona Cardinals coming off an incredible performance over the Rams. Both teams beat the Rams, Lions and Cardinals, so this is a real test here. We'll see who is.
But one team looked better doing it.
Yeah, one team did look way better
and
doing it.
And that's the Cardinals.
But the one team also would have to deal with a more injured team, which was the Cardinals as well.
Fair.
Marv looked incredible. Kyler looked incredible. Lions defense is good. It's really good. Aiden Hutchinson should feast. He has been feasting. I don't know how many. He had 4 sacks last game on 4 tackles or whatever it was. It was incredible. But I don't think they have anyone to really cover Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, in the secondary. Terrion Arnold himself is a rookie. Brian Batch, second-year player. We've been praising Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot, and just shows you why when you have 132 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Offensively, the Lions haven't looked the greatest either. Gannon's defensive game plan has been good, but I don't know if he has the personnel to really execute it. But I think that the Lions really going to have to play a mistake-free football game to beat the Cardinals, in my opinion.
So, this is perfect transition to the next topic here to close it out here, players to watch. I picked from both offense and defense that matchup. And the reason why is Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison are my offensive players. Mainly Kyler Murray, both, but Kyler Murray more because I feel like the other tight end's name again, Trey McBride and Michael Wilson and all these guys, right? And the reason why I'm saying it, and then my defensive guy is Aiden Hutchinson. I want to see that matchup because Kyler can buy time. The question is Aiden Hutchinson gonna let him find Marv as how quickly Kyler did in the LA game because there was no Aaron Donald in the past? Aaron Donald made it tough. Aiden Hutchinson is one of my finalists for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. I think he had 4.5 sacks in the last game himself. So that's why I'm intrigued to see both sides of the ball there in this matchup. It's gonna be a fun matchup because obviously Marv is gonna be open. The question is, can Kyler get away from a guy like Aiden Hutchinson and the rest of the D line there and throw the ball, find his open targets there as well? And can Marv, obviously I have to say Marv because of what he did in week 2, can he repeat that and become the sole leader at a Rookie of the Year right now, Offensive Rookie of the Year right now?
My offensive player to look for is also a guy who's coming off a really good performance, and that is Drake London. we're really expecting a breakout year for Drake London himself, and he put together 6 receptions and a touchdown. May not have the most yards, but the Atlanta Falcons did a much better job at targeting him this week, and I feel like his number was called and he showed up. And again, game-winning touchdown. Not a great celebration, but we'll give it to him. But I'm just like on that TD celebration where he put his hand on his head. I'm like, yo, why are you so surprised that you scored a touchdown? Right? And I'm like, I get it because you're in the Atlanta Falcons, and this is a different feeling because Kirk Cousins is there, and Drake London is going to be going up against Trent McDuffie this time, and that's going to be I believe a tougher matchup than Darius Slay. McDuffie, a young corner himself who slowed down Jamar Chase last week, so that'll be a good test. If Drake London could get something on McDuffie, we might be seeing a breakout year for him for sure.
To your point, I want to add on one very quickly before you close it out with a defensive player. I want to see the Falcons against the Chiefs because we have Falcons as that Cinderella run. How are they going to do against a good team with a pretty good defense and obviously a good offense as well? So obviously with Drake London get going, can they get Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson even more unlocked to the point where I had Bijan winning Opwe?
Defensive player for me is TJ Watt, and in terms of I believe that him single-handedly could legit blow up the whole entire Chargers game plan and identity, and because he is that good of a player, and his ability to time the snap, and we'll see if he's got to slow down Dobbins. Dobbins has been really good the first 2 weeks, and I believe Hayward and Highsmith and TJ Watt being in the front should be able to do that. And if they do that, the Chargers are gonna find it a little bit more tougher to score points because they're going off their second-hand offense, which is going to be their passing, and they have the guy to do that in Herbert. But right now, the team's getting run through Dobbins and Edwards.
Yeah, I was like
and I feel like TJ Watt's going to put on a masterclass and absolutely just stifle the whole game plan they have.
All right, so that's our week 3 previews. Before we close it out here, make sure you guys, 2 videos are popping up. One of them should be the week 2 overreactions. Make sure you guys click that video, and another random video that Joven will probably pop up while editing this. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit the post notification bell. We will be dropping NHL content very soon with the training camp starting underway as well. So again, very important, hit that bell notification so you can get notified. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.